This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday as we welcome you into VSiN, the sports betting network, Sirius XM Channel 158. This is Money Moves. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you, live as always from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. And we opened the show today with some potentially good news, or at least foresight for what might happen in the NFL awards markets when all is said and done, with the Pro Football Writers of America coming out with some of their winners.
Yeah, they've been releasing their winners the last couple of days. Just a couple of days ago, we learned Teteroa McMillan and Carson Schlesinger won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Most of us know, but for those who do not, this is not the one that will cash your tickets. That is the Associated Press.
But there is a correlation.
Yes, correct. There's a very strong correlation between the Pro Football Writers giving out their awards and then what the AP will do here. And to your point, today we learned that Matthew Stafford won MVP. Last year was the first time since 2003 we had a difference between the AP MVP and the Pro Football Writers Association MVP. Last year, the PFWA gave it to Lamar Jackson, yet it was Josh Allen who won the AP MVP. Last time that happened, 2003. So this is, again, strong correlation, at the very least, that Matthew Stafford should be the MVP. But again, after we saw what happened last year, I'm not going to count any chickens before they hatch, and neither should you. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I did want to at least get that out there so we had some positivity to start the show, because I was initially going to start by complaining, which I will do now, as I placed an NBA bet last night. You know, I'm trying to work my way into your world a little bit when I can. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who might have been with me on the San Antonio Spurs yesterday, plus 4.5. We lose by the hook despite being in covering the entire game up until there was about 36 seconds left. You're up 16 in the second half and you still lose getting points. It was a vomit-inducing NBA card for me last night. Not happy at all.
Welcome.
So this is your life.
Yeah,
this is your life. You
I
chose this life.
I don't even think it's NBA. I think it's just basketball betting in general. We'll talk about some of the games from last night in college basketball too. But yeah, the NBA is a volatile sport, even more so than college basketball, because there's more possessions. They're just better at the game. And then you get some of these ridiculous swings. By the way, too, I mean, the Jazz were another good example that we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But yeah, it stinks. I don't know what to tell you. There's been a lot of those for me over the course. See, the best one is, I think I've told the story. I will tell this one last time, I promise. But there was a Thunder Bulls bet many years ago. Did I tell you about this one?
I don't
Where
think so.
the Thunder were laying 1.5 points against the Chicago Bulls many moons ago. And the Thunder go up by about 30 at halftime. And I think at one point they're up by 37 in the second half. Bulls come storming all the way back. And it's a 4-point game with 3 seconds left and the Bulls have the ball. Well, the Thunder don't care. They're up by 4 with 3 seconds left, so they let the Bulls shoot a three. They hit it. It falls on 1. I'm laying 1.5 in a game. They were up by 37. And the best part was the subsequent nice pick.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, buddy.
People on social, don't
Love
you?
it, dude.
How dare you?
Love it.
How
Absolutely.
freaking dare you?
God,
out
you
there?
should have bet the money line. Oh, it was great.
Yeah,
Absolutely
okay.
fantastic.
Is that what I should have done? Thanks for that. Really, really needed that right now. But so the Rockets were one of those instances last night where they're up 16 late and end up losing. I mean, the Lakers were, same thing happened with them in Denver, how there's a 16-point swing in that one ultimately. Luka, by the way, another double-double for him.
Yeah, this one stung a little bit too, because by the time we got to tip-off late that night, I had added Denver as part of just like kind of a busy night in college hoops in the NBA to have something else on the card, and it looked like pretty good, as you're mentioning here. But Luka Doncic with a strong performance, 38 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists in the contest. By the way, to only go with 3 turnovers. He was absolutely great. So the Lakers get a big win over the Nuggets. Nuggets have been playing well, but we talked about it. Aaron Gordon was playing. Jamal Murray had been playing, but ultimately the Nuggets fall a little bit short. And very quietly, the Lakers have now won 2 straight after a stretch in which they had lost 5 out of 6. So maybe starting to turn things around. Coming up tomorrow, they will be back in LA, but not at home. They will be taking on the Clippers tomorrow on the road up the street. So we will see how that goes, but at the very least, Lakers starting to turn things around a little bit here, and more than likely playing a Clippers squad without Kawhi Leonard tomorrow.
Lakers win 115-107 as your final. Denver's 4th blown lead, by the way, of the year. And as you said, we'll talk more NBA, which is actually where we're going to set off the rundown here as we set the table for everything on deck over the course of the next 2 hours.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
We will dive deep into the card that we've got coming up today, but I'm very excited to get your thoughts on Keontae George odds watch for most improved as it's finally getting cut down and he had another massive performance last night.
40 burger last night for Keontae George, a career high, and he has now moved to the second shot on the board to win most improved. And I will tell you this right now, he shouldn't be. He should be the favorite. And there's really no question about it at this point right now, watching Keontae George's improvement and the media's love with his improvement as well, which has been spoken out loud by many different people, some of which have votes.
It is a Wednesday as well, which means we're going to talk PGA Tour every Wednesday moving forward to preview the events that are getting underway on Thursday, second event of the year. Tomorrow with the American Express in La Quinta, California. Going to get Christopher Powers of Golf Digest on the program to break it down. Season debut of world number one Scotty Scheffler, who's a plus 290 favorite. We're already getting these sickening prices on him.
We are, but we're also getting some big names as well. Ludwig Aberg among some others. So really looking forward to this. The last tournament, it was fine. It was good. But the fact that we're going to get the best of the best out there now, and we're going to get a field with some real depth to it, that's going to be really exciting to watch. So I'm very much looking forward to what they're going to have in store for us out there in La Quinta. One of the better early season tournaments. So very much looking forward to it.
And plenty of NFL on deck as well. Even though no betting implications, still just fun. I don't know if any of you guys have been listening to some of the sound coming out of these press conferences, especially in Buffalo this morning with Terry Pagula and all of that. We will have some press conference sound in a moment as John Harbaugh was officially introduced yesterday as the new head coach in New York. Some interesting back and forth with Joe Shane, but we will preview the two games that we have coming up this weekend at length as well. But let's start here with the Harbaugh side of it, because there was a lot to do about kind of how the power structure was going to shake out there in New York, and that part of the hurdles they had to overcome to ultimately get this contract done with John Harbaugh was that he was going to report directly to ownership instead of Joe Shane, and he addressed that in his availability yesterday.
When we set out, we were looking for a proven winner and an elite leader. We're fortunate we were able to find both. John Harbaugh's amassed 193 career victories, 13 playoff wins, and a Super Bowl championship. John has built a foundation of culture, player development, and toughness throughout each of his programs that he's been a part of. He's a proven winner. And when we set out to do this, we knew that John was going to be the perfect person for the New York Giants. When we did our research, what continually came up was John's respect that the players had for him and the ability to develop young men. And with that being said, I would like to introduce to you the next head football coach of the New York Giants, John Harbaugh.
So that obviously was not John Harbaugh, the soundbite we were looking for. We'll play that in a moment. But still, that sound from Joe Shane, the general manager out there in New York.
Who was, if you're listening on the radio, being held up at gunpoint.
But you can't, like, if you're just listening to that, and I listened to that soundbite like 3 times this morning, if you close your eyes and just listen to it, you don't realize how uncomfortable it really was unless you're watching the video. What was that?
I don't know. Maybe he's holding in a burp.
But how many of those has he done to, like, why are you so uncomfortable and so nervous in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be, I don't know. That was really weird. That was very odd. Maybe there was somebody, like you said, maybe there was somebody on the podium holding a gun up to him and telling him, you got to say this. Maybe he didn't want Harbaugh.
Maybe he was afraid of what John Harbaugh was going to say, although he was very complimentary to so let's try to play that soundbite now from Harbaugh that we were looking for.
Well, you know, to me, it's really not that important in the big picture and big scheme of things. I think it's kind of overblown just a little bit in terms of how it works. But the main thing is that it works, and that we work together. That's what matters. So that's kind of what I was used to. And it felt like a good way to kind of start off. We all report to the boss, right? And the boss is ownership. And John Mara is running football operations here, and he's running it. And I'm glad he is.
Oh, we didn't get the right Joe, but there was, I don't know if you heard that part of it earlier where he's like, we all report to the boss, right, Joe? And so it's, there were a couple moments throughout the press conference that were interesting between the two of them specifically, but he's trying to make it seem like it's not a big deal, but I think it kind of is.
Yeah, I would agree in terms of the power dynamic here. But at the end of the day, Harbaugh's there for one reason. It's to help for a third time in his career, I should say, to develop a young quarterback to the point where he can be a winner. And he did that with Joe Flacco. Whatever his involvement was there, he did it with Lamar Jackson. And now he's got another opportunity to do it here with Jackson Dart. So I hope that you can just figure out the dynamic in terms of who answers to who and what's going to go on. But at the end of the day, the important part here is that you build a staff that is going to allow you to take a roster that's got some talent at some spots and make it the best you can in a division that looks pretty winnable, at least coming out of 2026.
And I thought that I had it pulled up here, but I can't find it. The stat numbers I wanted to bring up, and maybe we can do this a little bit later, of what Drake May was year one are extremely comparable to what Jackson Dart's numbers were this season. And so it makes you wonder a little bit, like, obviously the turnaround that we've seen in New England is historic on many fronts, but could New York have a turnaround in that vein where they do get double digit wins just because they have the right voice and the right, depending on who he ultimately hires, pieces in place to get the most out of that talent?
Yeah, my argument would be, because you're not going to find many others who are a bigger fan of Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, than me.
Sure.
McDaniels has done a really good job, I think. And remember, it's not just him. He did help, whether or not you want to admit it, he helped with Tom Brady's career. And remember, the best season for your backup quarterback, Mac Jones, as a starter, they went to 10 wins and he was his offense coordinator. Then he got the job out here. So McDaniels has a long track record of developing these guys. We'll see if there's a difference here. To your point, though, on the surface, 15 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, completion percentage around 64%. Drake May was 66%, and just about a similar amount of yards as well. So seems pretty comparable.
2024 May 15-10, 2025 Dart 15-5. Like a lot of their things are really similar. And I mean, May had a three wins under his belt. Dart has 4.
May put his skull at risk, though, a little less, which I think Jackson Dart probably should learn how to do.
Okay. That's a very true statement. On that note, let's push it forward with New England next. Obviously, they have a massive game coming up with the Denver Broncos. See how that plays out and some of the news around the game when we return here on Money Moves.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Stormy Bonatoni, Jonathan Von Tobel back here with you on Money Moves VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Remember, if you want to chime in on any of the conversations today, please tweet at us at Storm Bonatoni, at me, JVT, as we look ahead to Conference Championship Weekend in the National Football League. Last year's Conference Championship Weekend, favorites go 2-0 ATS. Both games go over their posted total. So it was a nice weekend for the public last year. How will things shake out this time around? Looking at the current odds for both of these games, the first of the two in the AFC, the Broncos getting 5.5 at home, of course, with the news that we will not have Bo Nix dealing with that ankle injury, done for the year. Jarrett Stidham playing in his place. And that look ahead number prior to the divisional round was Broncos minus 1.5 and a total of 45.5. Now the Broncos are getting anywhere between 4.5 and 5.5, depending on where you look. DraftKings, FanDuel, those big national books, they're still at the 5.5. But across Las Vegas, we're seeing more and more of those 4.5s, the prevailing number. And then in the nightcap, Seattle laying 2.5 at home against the Los Angeles Rams, total 46.5.
Yeah, I think for me, I wanted to start with New England and Denver because today is a big day. We're going to get some practice reports. We're going to see what's going on. Denver, as we know, really beat up not only the quarterback position, but the fact that their wide receiver room was insanely thin. They had added Brandon Johnson to the practice squad. So we'll find out what exactly is the status of Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant, both who were injured and had to leave the game against Buffalo. But what I'm actually kind of morbidly fascinated by this game overall. The market thinks so little of Denver now. It is incredible. You know, you talk about the 5.5 point spread, Stormy, the total of 42.5. We're going to talk about these look ahead lines in depth, but just to give you an idea, in the Super Bowl, the projected matchups, they are 9.5-point dogs against Seattle and 8.5-point dogs against the Rams. They are so, in terms of at least their peers right now, they're so low on the power rating scale. Mm-hmm. It goes back to what you called me on when we talked to you on Monday, and just the general thought of, I can't be the only one that looks in this and thinks, man, are we maybe a little too far out? If the wide receiver room is a little bit healthier than we expect by the time we get to game time, are we maybe a little too far south here? And I even have questions about them defensively.
Mm-hmm. Which we'll get into the defensive side of this in a moment, but I know you had questions about, like, what should the realistic expectations for Jarrett Stidham be in this game? He's got 4 career starts. All of them have been regular season starts, fewest by a quarterback entering a conference championship or later in NFL history. It's also his first start since 2023, week 18 at the Raiders. Second quarterback in NFL history to make his first start of a season in a conference championship. So there are a lot of these things that are very new, a guy who hasn't been in this position before, and yet, and you've said it, maybe the market adjusted a little bit too much. I'm seeing like every national network talking about how the drop off isn't going to be that significant. And now that scares me a little bit. Does that not scare you? Because if he's this good and if the drop off's not that much, then why have we not heard Jarrett Stidham's name at all?
No, I mean, I think, so to your point, the Broncos are clearly pushing some sort of message through whatever lackeys they have in media. Because that was the first thing you heard was, this was Sean Payton's guy. Remember, he wanted him. There is a reason why he's here.
Knows this offense inside and out.
Yeah. You can kind of tell when you're looking at media where some of the messaging is coming from. And very clearly it's coming from
He
them.
even comes out for that, like after he's done with his press conference after the game, he comes out immediately, gives you the injury update, and then gives plants the flag of support for Jarrett Stidham immediately in that moment.
And you have to, I think, in Peyton's case, you have to. But with the media, like you're saying.
Do you though? Because how often do you have a coach come back out for a press conference immediately when he's done? Don't sometimes you play the game and see where it shakes out, give the update on Monday?
No, I mean, I don't know. I think
yes.
Why?
Yes, but I'm not saying
the conference championship week.
I'm saying that's what coaches do. I'm not saying like this case in particular, but like that's what more often than not we say. Oh, we're gonna see what's going on with Bo.
I mean, not when it's a season-ending injury, though, right? This is a little bit.
You
of a
could
difference.
know the information and not share it until Monday.
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm saying, how often do you see coaches play that game with the season-ending injury? I think there's a lot of times where you could just put it out there, like you said. I mean, there's no point in hiding it.
Even with Zach Charbonnet with the Seattle side of
right. But what's the difference if he announces it on Monday as opposed to after the game on Saturday?
I'm just saying it's not something that I've seen often.
Sure,
that's all.
Yeah, coaches play a game. Yeah. To an extent, I look at this and you look at his passing yards under 200 at 192.5, heavily juiced interception over a half at -176, only a half passing touchdown. Oh, it's heavily juiced to -204 at some spots, but this is incredible how low our expectations are for Denver in this game. I kind of want to push back on this. Again, I mentioned it to you. I'll be on the side of Denver. We'll see how high this gets. 5.5 is pretty dead, but can we get to 6? Can you get 6 here with the Denver Broncos at home against the New England Patriots?
We'll see. I want to play a clip real quickly from VSiN by the Books earlier. They had Broncos color analyst Rick Lewis on the program earlier this morning. And in addition, like once he was done talking about how he didn't feel that there was much of a drop off from Jarrett Stidham, he said this was actually what he felt could be the biggest key of the game.
The key to the game, though, for me is the defense. I think the Denver defense has to play their best game. Coming up Sunday against New England. They have to be better. They've been kind of leaky down the stretch here of the season and then gave up a bunch of points last week to Buffalo. They got to play better. They got to force some turnovers, which they've been doing lately. Sean Payton made that a point going into the postseason. He said the one thing we need to do is we need to force turnovers on defense, and man, have they. And as you guys know, New England and Drake May, they've been turning the ball over in the playoffs. So for me, that's the biggest key is you can force turnovers, sack and pressure Drake May. He's a really good, really talented quarterback, but he's only in his second year too, just like Bo Nix was. And I think if you pressure him like any quarterback in the league, they're prone to making mistakes. And if they can keep turning that ball over, I think they got a legit chance to win.
That to me is the biggest one. I brought this up 1,000 times last week when we were talking about this game and the fact that I was kind of cooling on my Broncos side because if you really dove into it, Denver's defense had taken a very big step back from its own standards after the bye week. Stormy, from the bye week up until they took on Chris Oladokun in the second to last week of the season, they were middle of the pack in expected points added per play on defense. Actually, middle of the pack, they were 21st. They were 23rd in opponent expected points added per drop back. Remember some of the performances. They had to turn away Marcus Mariota on a 2-point conversion in overtime. They got housed by the Jacksonville Jaguars out there in Denver. They have not been playing well. And then you think, okay, well, maybe it was just a blip on the radar, a few games, looked dominant in the last 2 games. Let's see against Buffalo. And what do you do against Buffalo? 491 total yards, 12 explosive plays, 5.8 or somewhere in that range yards per play. This has been a team that has really taken a step back on that end as well. So this is where you can kind of hear the trepidation, I guess, cowardice in my voice when I hear and I say, I think that Denver, I think I want to take 5.5, but it's not just the overreaction to Stidham. We do have to realize that this Broncos defense is nowhere near the same as its reputation is right now.
And yet, I will still give you, like, the season-long metrics for them are still great where we sit right now. Third in the NFL in scoring defense. There's 71 sacks this season, tied for second most of any team in the last 40 years. So, like, the numbers for the year are great. And if what we saw at the end of the regular season, they can find a way to get back to, because I don't think that it's irregular to have a team have an off night every once in a while. And yeah, maybe more than you would like the back end of the season, but you know they're still capable and you know they're still talented and they have health on that side of the ball for the most part. From an odd standpoint, though, I do think this will maybe give you a little bit of more support when it comes to the Denver side of this thing. They're the first home dog in a conference championship game since the 2017 Eagles, who upset the Falcons. Prior to that, it was the 2015 Broncos, who upset the Patriots. The home dogs in these roles historically have come out and win and gone on to win the Super Bowl as well, which is pretty good company to be in. They've also only been home dogs twice this season, against the Chiefs week 11 and against the Packers week 15, both of which games they won. And if this 5.5 number is where we close, Denver will be the largest home dog in a conference championship since the merger in 1970. That does not happen. But the previous largest home dog was the Raiders in 1976, who also got the upset and won.
Yeah, I mean,
I know it means nothing to you, and it has nothing to do with this team,
Well,
with the exception of the home dogs this year.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's also, of all of those teams in those instances, how many of them were on a backup quarterback with only 3 healthy wide receivers?
That's true too. But
I
don't know the situation of the 1976 Raiders.
How do you not remember?
So silly me. However,
I remember it like it was yesterday.
I do find it to be just kind of a fun, interesting thing that teams of the past, when they have been in this situation, have had success. So fun fact for you.
Am I right?
What?
I was just going to randomly bring up Ghost to the Post. I don't know if that was 19. Hey, that was it. What year was it?
1976?
Hell yeah, dude. Ghost to the Post, 1977, AFC Divisional game. Let's go.
You've never watched a movie from 1976, but boy, did you watch football.
I used to watch NFL Network a lot when I was a kid. So all those old NFL films things I used to watch a lot.
While we are getting ready for conference championships, you can also get ready to win a larger-than-life World Soccer Championship experience right now at Circa Resort and Casino, where we're broadcasting from. One lucky winner can score a 2-night stay here at Circa, a VIP cabana for the games at Stadium Swim with $500 in credit plus $250 in food and beverage credit as well. Arrive in style with limo transportation. Celebrate with cocktails at Legacy Club. What an unbelievable time. Enter now. Kick off the World Soccer Championship at Circa. For giveaway details, head over to circalasvegas.com. That's circalasvegas.com. We got to step aside. We had our deep dive on the Broncos Patriots side of this. Let's go to the NFC West next, shall we?
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, coming up this weekend, conference championship weekend upon us. We just broke down Patriots Broncos in the AFC. On the NFC side of things, we've got the number 1 scoring offense versus the number 1 scoring defense. Unstoppable force meets immovable object, that whole thing coming up. Or is it really just that clear cut that the Seattle Seahawks are the better team? The market has this thing sitting at a 2.5 point spread with Seattle favored at home, total 46.5, 47, depending on where you look. And I know you are very high on this Seattle Seahawks team as of now.
Yeah, so I wanted to throw an angle at you. It's stupid, whatever. Let's have fun and maybe gamble a little bit here.
Oh no, that's not what we do on this show.
Let's set this up first and foremost. The thing that has stuck out about the Rams has been two things at this point right now. I think at least. It has been the play of Matthew Stafford and how bad their special teams has been throughout the year. Their special teams directly correlated to, I don't know how many losses at this point right now.
While Seattle has an excellent one,
yes,
and Rashid Shaheed's going wild.
The best, correct. So, I'm looking at the number right now. Seahawks, anytime touchdown, defense and special teams is only plus 550 in this game. Considering what we're looking at here.
That's worth a look.
Totals 4. How about this? First touchdown, 28-1. And this is where you get crazy. 2+ defensive or special teams touchdowns at 55-1. May I present to you, you've already hit the biggest mismatch, which is the special teams. The fact that Rashid Shaheed has a punt return for a touchdown.
We don't need to talk about that.
How about the fact that Matthew Stafford, since week 15, has a turnover worthy play rate of 5.4% over the course of the last 6 games. In the first 11 of the season, he had 10. So he has all of a sudden been putting the ball in danger left and right. His completion percentage has dropped. He's been nowhere near the same quarterback. You might get more turnover-worthy plays and opportunities to pick him off in a game like this. Let's go. 55-1. What do you think?
I mean, if Seattle's watching any of the Panthers tape, then maybe they could dial in 3 picks in those 2 games that he threw.
I mean, and a pick 6.
Well, and a pick 6 amongst them.
I mean, that was a stupid angle here, but
I understand like the defensive or special teams angle at plus 550. I don't hate it.
Anytime touchdown, right? If you remember, there was a Sunday. It was Jets Saints. It was the Jets had a historical DVOA on special teams, and the Saints were 31st at the time in the NFL in special teams DVOA. And I bet a anytime touchdown for the defense or special teams, and it didn't get there. It's shockingly hard to score a touchdown.
Are you willing to get hurt again, though? I guess that is the question.
Sure. After anything, we'll see what happens. I do think what's going to be interesting here is, so we get the news yesterday, Zach Charbonnet is going to be out for the rest of the season with this knee injury. So it seems like Kenneth Walker is going to be the guy. How about this? Minus 165 anytime touchdown scorer. He is the only odds-on favorite to score a touchdown at any time in this game so far. First touchdown plus 425, 2 or more at plus 330. But the props here for Kenneth Walker, it is incredible seeing that. I mean, I get it. He's probably going to be the only option for you for the most part here. But Kenneth Walker entering bell cow territory right now. Is there a universe? Because I am very pro Seattle. But I feel like we should make the case for a pro Rams game because you don't want to just sit here and assume that the Seahawks are going to win it. And I do think that involves going back to the Thursday night. Stafford and the Rams averaged 6.6 yards per play in that game. He cut them up through the air. It was actually one of his best games over the stretch that I'm talking about here. In fact, no, it was his best game over this stretch since he's kind of regressed and started putting the ball in danger. We should probably be a little bit more, or I should be a little bit more open to the fact that maybe they found something in that game and Stafford's going to be able to come in here and actually perform pretty well like he did on that Thursday night against the Seahawks.
I want to know what's up with his hand. Like that's something that has concerned me a little bit. So I'll be interested to see what some of those practice reports look like coming out. Honestly, for Sam Darnold as well, we saw what Seattle was able to do, but so much of that success was Kenneth Walker on the ground with what he did, over 100 some yards and 3 touchdowns for him. But what do both of these quarterbacks look like health wise is going to be important for me. To go back to your Kenneth Walker angle though, Zach Charbonnet, 12 touchdowns this year, led the team in scores, including 4 in the last 3 games. And we saw after he got injured how much that shift went directly to Kenneth Walker. And they've had a lot of injuries in that running back room this year overall, backing him up. Is that just one of these things where, yes, as you said, bell cow territory where we're going all in on Kenneth Walker and that he's going to rack up the yards, that he's going to score the touchdowns? Or is there one of these depth backs that's going to have to step up that we should maybe try to consider and see who that's going to be once we hear more from the press conferences? Like Velus Jones, George Halani has been on injured reserve, but he's designated to return. Cam Akers in the room as well. Like, could somebody be worth a look to share some of that load?
I mean, either way, it's either one of these other running backs or just Walker in general. But the whole point here being something that you were kind of walking down that path. Sam Darnold only threw 17 pass attempts over the weekend. I don't think he's healthy.
Is he okay?
Yeah, I don't think he's okay. I think that they were more than happy going, oh, sweet, thank God. We only have to throw it 17 times. We're going to be fine. Now, He looked good initially when he rolled out to his left and found Jackson Smith-Njigba on that touchdown pass. It was really good. But outside of that, they asked him to do almost nothing. So whether it's just a
Darnold unders, Darnold attempt unders.
His pass attempts are at 29.5, overs minus 122. His average so far this year is 27.4. So you're kind of in that range of where he's been, a little bit higher. I don't think they want him to. And I think with the game script, they'd be more than willing to either give it to Walker or essentially just overfeed their backfield to the extent where some of those carries might bleed over to somebody just to give Walker a spell, whatever it is. We've talked about this a bunch. Finding some total touches for Kenneth Walker would be nice to be to look at.
Why don't we have that? We have every market possible at our disposal. Yet, for whatever reason, like a touches market, we haven't seen.
Yeah, we have rushing and receiving yards, so I'm trying to see if there's both. But either way, yeah, I am very curious to see, and this is again why I've kind of not cooled, but I should be more fair in our assessment of this game, that there is a reality in which Sam Darnold isn't healthy. He puts the ball in danger, much like he has throughout the course of the back end of the year since week 10. I mean, these two guys oddly mirror one another in that since they played each other, Darnold the first time around and Stafford the second time, they've both regressed to a great degree to what they were doing prior. And that's going to affect this game.
And worth noting as well, in terms of protection for Sam Darnold, they got Charles Cross back, but then he injured his foot in that game against San Francisco as well. He's day-to-day right now, so how good is he going to be on that side of the O-line? So there are a handful of different layers to this. How much can you really take away? Like, to go back to your earlier question about the previous matchups between these two, how much can we really take away from those games because it feels like they're different now?
I mean, they were both kind of different games too.
Sure.
I mean,
the Rams were up 16, like late in that game when Seattle comes back.
Yep.
Both end up being close results, which I think is why we still see the spread what it is, sitting at that 2.5 range, because this could very easily come down to a field goal game based on that history.
I mean, both could be 2-0 in this series. You can make the argument that both should be 2-0 in this series. So it's ultimately a very tight game, but I do think recent form does matter as we get back to my original premise of this game, which is I do think Seattle's the side. So Seattle has been playing outside of Sam Darnold. They seem to be a team that is going to be good enough to overcome whatever he's dealing with at this point right now.
What are your feelings on Davante Adams' health right now?
I don't know. It didn't really look particularly great, I thought, when you looked at the game against Chicago and what they wanted to do with him overall. You looked at the overall metrics, not really fantastic. 5 targets, 2 receptions, 24 yards. Didn't really look like he was getting too open. PFF only gave him a 62.4 in terms of the passing grade as well. I don't know if he's fully healthy. I think that this is still going to be it's got to be Nacua. It has to be. I mean, I think you're just more than comfortable doing that. Maybe in the red zone, if you want to use him. He's a big-bodied guy. Nakua's been a lot better at some of those screens and whatnot to get into the end zone from behind the line of scrimmage. But I think Adams, if there's anything, maybe there's an anytime touchdown in there if they're just going to use him in the red zone.
But I think even to that end, Adams has been like the red zone target for so long. He was always the guy that you would prefer to have in pocket for the anytime touchdown. He and Puka are the same price.
Yep.
And I think that's kind of telling as to where Davante is at right now. Some of those other anytime touchdown scorers, you mentioned Kenneth Walker already at minus 165. That's the biggest favorite on the board in that market. Jackson Smith-Njigba, who we talked about the Pro Football Writers of America and all of the winners that they had for the season-long awards. JSN was the offensive player of the year for them there. He's at even money. Adams and Nacua plus 120 apiece. Kyron Williams plus 130. AJ Barner 2-1. Cooper Kupp plus 280. Blake Corum plus 290. And so on from there. Aside from like defensive special teams, did you see any other angles from whether it be like a prop yardage perspective, touchdown perspective that you just kind of caught your attention a little bit?
I know that I'm assuming that the kicker props will probably be pretty popular here in this game. Myers 2+ field goals at minus 170. We remember the first time they played where they trotted them out there 1,000 times and he was still lining up for a potential game-winning field goal. So I think that out of the two, you're probably looking at Myers in an over-under situation to go over his field goal attempts as well. I mean, McDonald, he's gotten some credit for this as well. He is similar to DeMeco Ryans, where he is a guy that's willing to take the points. Sometimes to a fault, but for the most part, he's always willing to try this guy out there.
Remember, everybody, as we talk about these games and lines on the move, props on the move, before the line moves, sharp plays already there. January is not about volume. It's about precision. And the NFL playoffs are when we see limits rise, mistakes shrink, and timing mattering more than ever. You're not going to outsmart billion-dollar sportsbooks or full-time sharps on your own. With Sharp Plays, you don't have to. Powered by advanced AI, connected to proven insider sources, and locked in on the NFL playoffs. The Sharp Plays helps identify where the sharp money hits before the number goes away. You get free daily betting reports, real-time alerts, market-moving insights, all delivered straight to your inbox or X feed, and they've been backing it up with documented results, public logs, and transparent receipts since 2011. SharpPlays.com, trusted by the pros, monitored by the book. Stay ahead of the line this postseason at SharpPlays.com. This market is on the move in terms of NBA awards. Keyonte George, why are you not the favorite yet? We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Remember, everybody, if you want to join in on any of our conversation today, send us some tweets at Storm Bonantoni, at MeJVTs. We welcome you back here to this Wednesday edition of Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, SiriusXM channel 158. Also, miss any of the program, you can always download and subscribe to Money Moves in podcast form. We get those things loaded up immediately after the show so you can listen on your own time. Respect the process. Chiming in on social, JVT saying something just popped in my head. It's Sean McVay versus Mike McDonald and Sean Payton versus Mike Vrabel. I guess you got to be named Sean or Mike to get to the Super Bowl this year. Facts.
It's very true, I guess. The script writers, I guess.
It always comes back to the script.
Yes, NFL is fixed.
It's becoming too obvious.
That's why Jerry Jones totally signed up for this. He loves the fact that his team's a doormat.
He was not allowed in the writer's room after the mid-90s.
Yes.
And that's basically how that shook out. He rubbed somebody the wrong way. And now he's been in this position.
Yes, very true.
Comes as simple as that. We are going to talk, of course, more about the conference championship weekend coming up. But it was a big night in the NBA yesterday. And we talked about already at least some of the more interesting results yesterday. But to dive a little bit deeper on what the Jazz did and what it has meant for the futures market in Most Improved. And we've talked a lot on this show about Keyonte George. I mean, they get a big upset win yesterday as a double-digit underdog. What was it, like 13 points? Mm-hmm. Utah trailed by 15 in the game too and still ended up going on to do what they did. All of that with the catalyst of Keyonte George, who you have said should be the favorite in this market. We're finally seeing the odds tick down. He's in the plus 450 range now, but nowhere near that odds on price that we're seeing.
Yeah, you know, there's really no question at this point right now that he should be the favorite. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not doing anything. When you factor in the actual improvements that he has made, as well as the discourse around him of those who are going to decide this award, I am stating for a fact that this guy should be the favorite to win this. And there is a difference in the odds that doesn't represent this. Denny Avdia is still your odds-on favorite to win this. We got a question the other day about the Sixth Man of the Year awards and why there is this difference. Folks, I don't know how else to say this, especially with some of these awards that are somewhat subjective. Most Improved, Sixth Man of the Year. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to set these markets. And so I would not be deterred. I will go back to one of the years that I had a Most Improved ticket that actually got there. But Jeremy Grant, the year that Julius Randle won Most Improved, was minus 550 at one point, deep into the season, to win the award. Julius Randle won it. So the odds are not reflective of what this truly looks like. You've had multiple media members with votes that will decide this award that have flat out called Keyonte George the Most Improved player. And while you look at the statistics and Denny Avdia is having a very strong season, Denny Avdia is having a strong season because a team is finally buying into what Denny Avdia is, and his usage rate is going up, his shot attempts are going up, and his efficiency is kind of staying the same, which is good. He's been an efficient player for the last two seasons, but because of a higher workload, a higher usage rate, his statistics are improving. For Keyonte George, his actual game and his statistics are improving. He was a nightmare in multiple different facets. Look at catch and shoot jumpers, for an example. Last year, he took 26.2% of his shots in the form of a catch and shoot 3-point attempt. He shot 36.5% on those, Stormy. This year, he's shooting 42% on such attempts. That's just a little equivalent of what you're talking about. His rim percentage from a year ago has been incredible. He's shooting over 70% at the rim this season. For a guard, that's incredible. When you're talking about shooting within 4 feet of the basket, the game in terms of his handle, the way he shoots, there's so many different ways in which he's improved his game that many others have noticed and have given voice to. Dude, he's rising up the ranks. Not only should he be one of the best players in the league potentially or on that track, right now he is the most improved player in this league right now. I don't think there's a question about it.
And following the 43-point career high performance and the 15-point late comeback, his head coach, Will Hardy, had nothing but praise about his young stud.
Keontae had 5 or 6 plays tonight that were just incredible. And it's a testament to him, to his ability, to the work he's put in, the confidence he has, the confidence his teammates have in him. Our fans are watching, one of our own grow in front of their eyes. And, he's really turning into a star.
No question about it. Yeah. So, again, I will reiterate, he's Denny Avdija minus 170. The market's mispriced. George should be the favorite, and there's really no question about it. So I think we're on track.
Okay.
We're on track here if he keeps this up. And if not, I'll riot.
Okay. And while we've obviously...
Zach Cohen might riot with me too.
So I was going to say, as we've talked about this a lot on this show, you have also brought this up on the Hardwood Handicappers podcast. You and Mitch Moss have discussed this on Pod to the Futures. There are so many different ways that we've discussed this item in particular, but those platforms, you guys are getting into so many good, interesting things on a weekly basis. So if you haven't subscribed to both Pod to the Futures and Hardwood Handicappers, you're missing out on really good regular information.
Wow, I appreciate it.
One other game I wanted to ask you about as we shift gears to today that has, I listen to more than you think. Okay. So don't be a hater. When we look at the card today, another news item kind of popped as we have the Knicks in action hosting the Nets tonight. And Jalen Brunson, I guess, called a players only meeting this week after New York was blown out at MSG by the Mavs. Josh Hart, some of his quotes coming out of that game that they need to do some soul searching right now, called how they've played embarrassing basketball. They've dropped 9 of 11, looking for answers amongst themselves right now instead of the coaching staff. Does that actually impact anything on the court, though? How do you see this game tonight? I mean, it's a double-digit spread.
It's hard to say how something like this impacts your play on the court itself. Having said that, they're not really in a good place. And frankly, they don't seem to kind of like each other at this point right now. And some of it stems from Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, this team, as you've alluded to here, they've lost 4 straight, failed to cover 5 out of the last 6. This is, and don't get this one twisted either, because I think there's some that would just turn their nose up at the thought of this game mattering. This is Brooklyn and New York type deal. Sure. The Knicks don't want to lose to little brother. And if you lose a 5th straight at home to the Nets, what that would do for this team, this is actually, I think, a really tense game that should be pretty good today. The Brooklyn Nets, as we know, have improved themselves defensively to quite a bit. But the question just becomes, this team has not been playing well, Stormy. Their starting 5 in terms of point differential is now, I think, about at a flat 0. They have not been, that was a very good starting 5 last year. Their defense has fallen off. They're having foul issues, and some of it stems from what's happening with Karl Anthony Towns, and whether it's an inability or a lack of desire to buy into what the scheme is going to be, or a disconnect with their head coach, Mike Brown, who the other day a lot was made of. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a pretty chippy game against the Golden State Warriors, and then afterwards, Brown sitting there hugging and laughing with Draymond Green and others, and it was maybe, by some accounts, perceived to be not sticking up for his dudes. So there's infighting that seems to be leaking out at this point. That doesn't really bode well for them. So at the very least, you can't convince me to lay 11.5, given the way that they're playing right now.
I just keep looking back to last year and firing Tom Thibodeau too, and thinking that maybe he's the problem. Clearly, they have a lot of other things that are going on here.
Well, what's weird is they were playing well. They were, I think they were
23-9.
Yeah, there we go. I was going to say 21-9. Yeah, 23-9.
They win the NBA Cup.
Yep.
Seems like everything's soaring up, and now this has gotten ugly.
Some would say, this is why you hang the banner. They refused to do it. Now it's the curse of the NBA Cup.
Anything else on tonight's card that caught your attention? I know we'll have best bets at the end of the day.
Come on. What are we doing?
Cavs Hornets.
It has to be Cavs
All right,
Hornets.
Hit me with it.
This is a legitimately good game. Now I bet the Cavaliers.
Where we have the ESPN top crew.
Yep.
On site in CLT. Let's go.
I do think it's a short number for Cleveland, so I laid 2.5 here with them.
Well,
I'm going to try to short our boys here just because they have been playing extremely well, and the market is keeping up to an extent with how good they have been playing, or how well they have been playing, if I can speak proper English here. They are not covering as frequently as you might think. They're 3-3 against the spread in their last 6 games. That follows a stretch which they had covered 5 straight. So how much we think of this team, it is starting to catch up with their power rating. And I do think it should be noted, Cleveland, Darius Garland's not going to play today, and they had lost 3 straight, and they failed to cover their last 4. Or excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong one. They have lost 2 out of the last 4, so they're 2-2 playing 500 basketball. But over the larger sample size, Stormy, they are starting to turn things around. And while their power rating's been a little high, I do think that this is a spot where you can catch them in a pretty decent situation, laying a short number coming off of a day off here. So it's not a long trip. You're at home against OKC. They make this trip over to Charlotte to play the Hornets, who are probably at the top of the market. Give it a shot with Cleveland here today, which should be a very fun game.
You disappoint me.
I mean, it's an emotional hedge. Sure. If the Hornets win, I mean, God forbid that the Cavs win by one, because then I
throw a 4-1 to make the play in the account, and then you're like, you know what? Let's just fade them the very next day. I mean, thanks for that.
I told you about that.
I know, but still.
It's not exactly something that I disagree with you on at this point right now. I will say, too, and we can have a little bit more later, but kind of a boring card on the surface. 4 games to about a double-digit point spread today, so there's not really much going on. Later tonight, Toronto, Sacramento as well, so not a sexy card today in the NBA.
But you know what is pretty good looking and pretty fun? We're going to have a little fun with coming up this weekend. The unforgettable sports moments from this past year. If you love moments, you love sports betting, you love what makes everything that we do unforgettable, don't miss the top 10 most memorable sports betting moments of 2025. Our own Tim Murray, coming up next Tuesday, January 27th at 1 Eastern, is going to break them all down. The biggest swings, the wildest finishes, and most unforgettable tickets. Relive the moments bettors won't stop talking about. Tuesday, 1 Eastern, only here on VSiN.